Welcome back from the land of post to Pizzeria Simulator. Last time the episode was running a little long, so I went ahead and cut it from here. And now we continue from where we left off. Okay, so I've still got the 900 I need for the overnight what's-its. Upgrade. The upgrade, yes. I knew I would remember them. Activate that, turn that off, buy the equipment. Begin ordering supplies. Yeah, that was brilliant. I forgot I need to do those first. Nope. I'm dead. On both sides. Problem is that greatly draws attention to me. So close. Oh, come on!
You're not who I expected to see.
The closer you are to finishing, the more frustrating it is, and the more discouraging that is. But at least it remembers that I ordered that upgrade, so that saves me a few seconds. Turn that on. Begin printing those, because that's the noisiest task of the night. I still feel kind of like I'm meant to be bait to attract all the animatronics to one building, and your ending depends on how many of them you have successfully lured. I heard that. I think they're in both vents. Yeah, I'm dead. I mean, I'm rightly dead. No. There was a split second that on the audio monitor I saw one in the same room as me. And then boom. I mean, maybe a frame or two, but I registered it mentally. I didn't have time to process it until after the death sequence, but... It seemed like in the early nights I was having better luck using the decoy. Maybe it was because I was putting the printing off until later. Does that actually make any noise? Okay, so there's two on the right, so I want the audio decoy over there. Let's not do that at the same time. Yeah, no,
thank you. Fascinating. What they have become.
I don't know which one you were in. I'm gonna die. I'm letting the vents go too long.
Bittersweet, but fitting.
My enjoyment of this game gets a little less with each defeat. It would also be nice if they always made noise instead of sometimes being able to be completely silent.
Fascinating what they have become.
One minor complaint, when they talk to you, I do like that you hear it in both ears. It makes them sound better. But it can also make it frustrating because it's then a little bit...
Bittersweet, but fitting.
It makes it harder to tell which vent they are talking to you from. I wonder if that makes noise enough to actually attract them. Somebody needs to do that. Sit there honking and, you know, do a full study on whether that counts as noise as far as the animatronic attraction factor goes. I'd also love to know the measurement of how much noise each individual... Oh!
Fascinating what they have become.
When they end up in both vents...
It feels like my birthday. Did you have a gift for me?
They can be in both vents at once, and you can only defend one vent. And, oh, there are so many quirks in the design on this game that I am not fond of.
It feels like my birthday. Did you have a gift for me?
That was easier than I thought it would be.
Well, I hoped if I lured them all to one side that I could then just monitor that side, but I see that's not going to work. I know what I did last time is whichever side had two of them, use the audio thing over there. But I feel like the heat is going up faster than it did back then. If there was a way to reduce the heat gain, this game would be so much nicer. But so much of it is also random number generator. Oh great, that came from both directions. Gonna die, gonna die.
One big happy family.
You may not recognize me at first, but I assure you, that's still me.
Oh yay!
You should have known I'd find you.
And it is at this point that I think it's safe to say that I'm just going to stop this one. And if you would like to see this game to completion, go watch Markiplier. I mean, he's far better at it than me anyway. Anyway, like I said, it's at this point I'm just not really enjoying this. I don't see a point in continuing to bash my head against it. Like I said, I'm just gonna cut this game here, say, you've seen a lot of the game. We found the little, you know, hidden secret backdoor things that were pretty interesting. Overall, it's an interesting game. I just do not have the time, patience, and or interest to continue doing so. So, thanks for watching this far. Before I actually go, there are, you know, I kind of got rambly before and didn't cover all the myriad details. Firstly, I do want to say, I do like Pizzeria Simulator, at least in concept. It's a beautifully designed game. I love the The visuals, the animatronic models are, I mean, aside from being, spooky, they're gorgeously designed. The level of detail and the heart that went into it, I do really like that. I also really love the fact that there's hidden lore hidden in some of the things you can purchase. I adore games that have lore that's there hidden beneath the surface for the people that want to find it, kind of. That was one of the things that, going back a fair bit, that was one of the things that made Metroid Prime stand out so much at the time, to a lot of people, not just me, was the fact that you could go out of your way to find lore, you could scan things, you could learn about things, but you didn't have to do it to beat the game. It was one of the things that made Immersion so interesting, was that it looked so cutesy on top, and then, beneath the surface it just gets weirder and weirder and more kind of eldritch. I love the idea of games that, for lack of a better word, it looks cutesy and harmless on the surface, but when you get into it, you find out that there's so much more going on than you realize. I know there's a whole list of games that could be mentioned that do that, and the Five Nights games have always been good about having that lore kind of hidden in the background. You sometimes stumble across it, and when you've got a community of people playing a game, if each person stumbles across a different piece, then, it gets pieced together. Excuse me. So it's not that I dislike this game at all. I really do like it. It frustrates me for, a few reasons, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I do like it. I like the design. I think there are a few things that could be tweaked and polished a little bit. Not visual design-wise, but I love the sounds. I love the way the game looks. The hidden lore, that at least the parts that I stumbled across were very interesting. A little disturbing, but interesting. One of my minor critiques is the fact that the game wants to be audio driven, like the player listening for things, hearing them moving in the vents. Well, there's two problems with this. One, I might recommend that, currently there are 6 vents on each side, 2 rows of 3, and then the one connecting the 2 areas. I'd be curious to see if it would help if you, fully expanded that into being 2 grids of 9 to give them a bit more room, or if you altered the connections between them so the player had to remember which vent connected where instead of it being a fully interconnected grid. That was one of the things in the previous games that I liked about the design. I haven't played the previous games, mind you, but that each room connected to other rooms differently. It was not just a blank grid. That was one of the first things I noticed in Five Nights 6, was that each vent just kind of grid connected to the others. Secondly, on the note of it being audio driven, the fact that the animatronics can sometimes move silently, and by sometimes I mean it seems to be a coin toss, or they move so frequently it's really hard for me to get an actual statistic on that without going out of my way to, I guess it'd be, there'd be ways to do it, but I'm not going out of my way to do that. But I mean, the fact that so often they move silently in a game that's trying to drive you to listen for them, to me, feels like a kind of a conflict of interest. That is not the right term, but it's the closest term I can pull off the top of my head at the moment, of game wants to be driven by player listening, but sometimes there's no audio cue. To me, that feels a little unpleasant. Secondly would be the fact that they can be in the vent right at the office. I mean, I'm reluctant to call it an office. It really looks like the player is put inside of a, I don't know what the term for that steel is, but it has that texture on it. Basically, it looks like you're in a reinforced metal box playing bait, and my theory is that your purpose there is to lure as many of the animatronics to the establishment as you can, and at the end of the week, if you've gotten them all, you get some really, I mean, that would be the true ending of sorts, or the secret ending. I mean, in theory, you could play through the whole game and not get any animatronics, but I think you may be stuck with one minimally. I'm not 100% sure, but if you refuse all the salvages, I'd really rather not do that. That would just be kind of taking the easy mode approach, and I'm sure somebody else has already done that. Just like I'm sure you could 2020, whatever equivalent of 2020 would be to just maximize your risk, but then the lawsuits, and I don't know. I'm rambling. Anyway, that's my theory, because it looks to me like you're not in an actual office. You're trying to lure all the animatronics nearby while not dying. Or at least that's the theory that I kind of felt made sense. But yeah, it's... Oh, I don't even know if I covered the topic I was mentioning. The fact that they can be right at the... Yeah, that's where I was. The fact that they can be at the two vents right at the office looking in at you, and you have a flashlight, it bothers me slightly that when you shine it in there, that you don't see them. I understand, there could be various reasons for that. But I think it would be all the more unnerving if when you flipped left or right to look, you shined it and boom, there's the face staring at you, and now you've got to be... I mean, even the guides say that if you catch them in that vent, that you stare at them until they leave, because then they're kind of... they can't come out of the vent while you're looking at them. And having to see them would, to me, cover for the fact that they could occasionally move silently, because it would force you to rely also on the visuals, and then you could see them. One downside to this is currently multiple animatronics can occupy the vent at the same time, or they can seem to. I've seen multiple ones in the same locations elsewhere, so I'm assuming that those side vents play by the same mechanic. But they wouldn't be able to do that, which could require some recoding if you could actually see them, because then they would have to have a image for every possible combination of animatronics, which, that could grow in complexity quite a bit, quite fast. If they were to do that. But... yeah, that's just a minor critique. It bothered me that when you looked in the vents and they're right there that you can't see them, because I kind of expected to see them, and it would be unnerving, and it would, to me, add a little bit to the depth. And cover for the fact that they can move silently, because then you could see them. Even if they weren't super easy to see, like even if it was just you could faintly see them in the shadows sort of thing. It would also help you to know when they've left the vent. And yes, I know there is a distinct sound for entering the vent and leaving the vent. I have tried to listen for it, and it sounded about the same to me. Partly because my focus is splintered across so many different things, perhaps, or possibly just because... I mean, I guess I could look it up and see which sound is what, but that... I don't like doing that. But yeah, I felt like the... it couldn't quite figure out if it wanted to be sound-driven or sight-driven. And also, the third thing is that it feels to me like the temperature goes up. Compared to the rate at which the fan brings the temperature down, it goes up too fast. You could increase the rate that the temperature comes down from the fan, and I mean the main noisy fan, not the backup fan. The backup fan is wonderful. But you can get yourself stuck in a feedback loop where your temperature is going up more than you're able to get it back down because the fan's creating so much noise. I mean, there are multiple things you could do about it. Alter the noise, alter the rate at which the temperature goes down, alter the rate it goes up. But altering the rate it goes up would mean you'd have to alter the rate that the backup fan affects it, because if you reduce that and you don't reduce the other one, then the backup fan would end up reducing your overall temperature, which would not be the intention. But the limited number of vent positions also makes the audio decoy... limited number of vent positions combined with the fact that every vent connects to every adjacent vent makes the audio decoy a little meh. The fact that the audio decoy shows you where they're moving within its range makes the motion detector kind of... I've not actually found any use for that. Even when I've tried to use it, it takes so long to detect any motion that I would have been better off using the audio decoy. It seems like the three tools aren't really balanced against each other. And I would suppose that's why a lot of guides recommend that you just use the backup fan and ignore the other two tools. But I would presume that the game design would want you to make a strategic choice and not make one of them automatically better than the others. I'm unsure if each animatronic has its own, like, temperament. Was it just me, was it just my random luck that Baby was constantly the one that was always attacking, and that Funtime Freddy was almost never messing with me? Does each one have their own personality? By personality, I mean their own aggression rating, I guess. Tendency towards certain positions, hearing, etc. I do not know. I am intrigued by the concept. And I would love to see the full range of knights and the full range of animatronics, but like I said before, it's getting to where I'm just not enjoying it. And while I think it's a wonderful game, there are people who have Let's Played it far better than me, and who would be more interesting to watch do so than to see me endlessly bash my head against it and just get more frustrated and not make progress, because that wouldn't be, it's not as much fun for anybody, me or the viewer, what few viewers there are. But of those of you there are, I am very thankful. I am glad that I played this. I had fun, and I'd like it to remain a fun memory, so I don't want to keep bashing my head against it to the point where I kind of look back with disdain would be too strong of a word. I don't want it to be a negative thing, so I don't want to keep bashing my head against it until I don't like it. But I did enjoy playing. I hope you enjoyed watching. Sorry for not finishing, and I would likely recommend, if you want to see the rest of the game, to watch Markiplier. He does amazing Let's Plays, doubly so when Five Nights is involved. They don't call him the king for nothing. But, thanks for watching as always, and I will see you on the next game.